through my life with my way. There's you. I try to make it through these lies. That's all I do. Just don't deny it. Just don't deny it. Deal with it. Yeah, deal with it. You try to break me, you wanna break me bit by bit. That's just part of it. If you were dead, I feel alive. I don't care. Hi, welcome to Last Resort Repair Recreation, episode 25. Yes, that song, as always, when we play that, is dedicated to all of the Archons. And we're going to continue our fight against the Archons by spreading truth and analyzing things and looking into things and reading articles that others have written, and as well as my own. So, it's all discussion. Everything is open here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. This is so important. Okay, I'm going to start off with a poem. It's called To the Faithful and True. Sometimes the greatest things are not always easy to see. When you're looking into someone's eyes, you're looking into me. I am Creator Source, and I reside in you, as well as all others who are faithful and true. Okay, this one's called Breaking Through. Don't be nervous as we break through the surface, and we're making it known that we did it on purpose. We came to save Earth, and that is just what we've done. We are the dawn of the rising sun. Let's see. Charmella has something to read today we're going to talk about the Oregon shooting, and whether or not it was a false flag, or whatever, or an occult blood sacrifice. Could it be either one? I guess I'll start off by reading what I wrote about it, and then Charmella wanted to do a poetry rap skit that she wrote about gun control. Okay. This is the first time I wrote it, so this is before we found out what recent information it was. So this is on 10/2/2015. This is my commentary on the 10/1/2015 Oregon shootings by Matthaeus. Here is yet another excuse to create mass hysteria and justify stricter gun control. 13 people were killed when the supposed lone wolf opened fire on the college campus. Conveniently, the shooter was killed, so this is another mass shooting to add to the beta fear programming without having to carry out a court case and elaborate on the details. Whether this was staged with crisis actors by inorganic AI or an actual occurrence, we will most likely never know unless we were there. If it did happen as they are saying, then this has occult blood sacrifice written all over it. 13 is a significant number to the dark occultists. The 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati, 13 stars above the bird on the dollar bill, the 13 colonies, the 13 zodiac occulted sign of Draco Etic. This also occurred after the final 2014-15 tetrad lunar eclipse blood moon. 3, 13, and 33 are significant numbers of the dark occultists. They are also saying that the shooter was targeting Christians. Here's another example of how the dark occultists are playing both sides, targeting Christians and brainwashing them through religious programming. Whatever crap they're pulling, don't let it put you in a beta programming state of fear. Seek alpha by loving others and yourself. Love is what will help us create a positive future on Earth's positive timeline. Okay, now I'm going to read the updated commentary. This is written on October 3rd, 2015. Commentary on the Oregon shooting, part 2. Now the latest update says there were 9 fatalities, 10 including the shooter. If you take a listen to one of Mark Passio's podcasts, What on Earth is Happening, on occult numerology, 9 is a very significant satanic number. 9 is the number of the ego. It is also the occulted number of the beast. 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18, and 8 plus 1 equals 9. So the initial number of fatalities was 13, a very significant number to the Satanists, now changed to 9, another very significant number to the Satanists, now changed to 9, not counting the shooter. This has false flag fear propaganda written all over it. This is an attempt to bring about stricter gun control. The Dark Cabal can't have their way with us when we are armed. The Citizens Militia keeps the playing field leveled. As Mark has said, they will never be able to disarm America. I agree. Now that we are on the positive timeline, things will not be in the Dark Cultist's favor. We will continue to expose and shed light upon the dark forces. I have an article somebody wrote too about more points about this false flag / corrected acting / occult sacrifice. Whatever it was, it's definitely something that they're using to put into stricter gun control and take people's rights away. And I was listening to a show, I'm not sure what show it was, on Republic Broadcasting Network, and they were talking about how people don't actually have the right to bear arms. They have the right to possess arms, but not actually bear them. So they're making that point, which is a valid point. I know it's dangerous and people can get hurt, but also we're doing this so we can stand up against tyranny. And if we don't stand up against tyranny, then it's going to bite us. And it's important, because it's important to have freedom and free will and keep our freedom for our kids in the future. It's very important. This is the great work. This is what we came here to do. And we'll keep coming back because we incarnate. And so if you're doing something to make things better on Earth, then when you incarnate, then you'll be able to have those benefits that you fought for in previous lives. Here's a good poem to say about that too. Earth has been chosen. We're learning that we're so much more than just our human form, because we teleported through the sun when we chose to be born. And the reason why we made that choice was to fill the earth with love, so she can finally reflect upon our stars that shine above. Okay. I'm going to turn over to Charmella now. She's going to read her gun control poetry rap skit. Then I'm going to start the article that I found. Now this is going to be graphic, so I'm just going to warn you before I do it, just in case that you don't want to hear it. But it's very important, and I feel that it's necessary that we speak our mind and we let them know that they ain't got the upper hand. We got the upper hand. So this one's called Standing Defense. Standing in Defense. Fuck gun control. I'll shove my AK-47 up the Archon's asshole and pull the trigger, causing the worst hemorrhage the world has ever seen. A metaphor to let them know they'll never get to see their dream. Our right to bear arms shall not be infringed. If anyone tries to disarm me, I will stab them with a lethal syringe. They will never take away our right to bear arms. They can try all they want to with psyops, false flags, drills, and alarms. Our guns are for self-defense only. We would never cause harm. Together we stand for the right to bear arms. Thank you. Very well said. Okay. Now I'm going to read that article I was talking about that I found. This article, I found it on telehub.com by Bernie Suarez, called Oregon Shooting, 13 Troubling Signs of Potentially Yet Another False Flag. When you practice something all the time, you eventually get very good at it. The one thing many awakened and vigilant Americans have become good at over the past few years is sniffing out government false flags because they have so much practice at it. You may find the events surrounding the recent Umpqua Community College shooting in Southern Oregon may ring a bell. May ring a few familiar false flag bells after you consider what the mainstream media is saying about the shooting. It is at least extremely reasonable to suspect that this is yet another gun control shooting false flag event, since it has many of the characteristics of it. Sounds crazy? Yes, it always does. False flags are supposed to divide people in addition to tricking them. But as I've said repeatedly in the past, when considering a suspected false flag event, you have to start somewhere. Look for the beneficiaries, of course, and look for common patterns. I think many of us know the patterns by now and what to look for when suspecting a false flag shooting. The college where the latest shooting took place is located 6 miles north of Roseburg, Oregon, and has a very small town where you would expect everyone to be known to most people, yet early on it appears it is not the case. 13 so far unknown people are said to be murdered and another 20 wounded. Should we believe that the Oregon shooting is legitimate with no government involvement? I would like to think so, but as always, many things surrounding this latest shooting force us to consider if we're dealing with yet another gun grab shooting designed to push anti-gun legislation. With the New World Order's Agenda 2030 pushed last week with help from the Pope, we know that Obama now has gun control as one of the remaining major items on the top of his list before he leaves office in 2016. The administration desperately needs this gun control agenda to be pushed through, and we've seen a laundry list of proven false flag shootings over the past several years. Are you someone who wants to believe this is not so? Then deal with these 13 points at which, the very least, bring into question this latest shooting. Grandiose mainstream media headline demanding your attention on this story. Without the same grandiose mainstream media headline, I myself would not have noticed the story online. Here we go again. This is now the latest 24/7 story that the mainstream media seems to want and need you to be fascinated by. This alone is a huge telltale sign that no one should overlook. Immediate call for gun control. And the story sub-headlines. This latest Oregon school shooting comes with no holds barred. Even in the very headline, there was a quick post announcing the need for gun control. Whenever you have gun control pushed on you before you can understand just what just happened, that should be cause for a red flag. Obama himself immediately calls for gun control seizing, the moment Sandy Hook style. Obama even admits his desperate gun control agenda is political. This is something we should politicize, he said, calling on Americans of all political stripes to hold their elected leaders accountable for acting on this issue. It goes without saying that whenever Obama jumps onto a topic, he should run the other way, and fast. Very few actions tell me this shooting has an agenda behind it, more than seeing Obama immediately calling for gun control on cue. I'm thinking, doesn't Obama have presidential work to do? Why is he so involved in specific stories that perfectly fit the New World Order agenda? Are we going to ignore this or consider this timing coincidental? 4. The shooter is dead as usual. We all know the script by now, and once again, as usual, the shooter does not live to tell the tale or defend his intent. That's because dead men tell no tales. Consequently, the story, as usual, is left to the storytellers. And with the usual dead shooter, there is much less need to worry about any account conflicts or future revelations of government involvement. Some things for everyone to consider are the following. Did the shooter try to lower his gun? Most circumstances led to police actually killing the shooter. Are police reports available for us to see? Don't police disable people anymore? Isn't there a policy for this? Did police follow correct procedure? Shooter identity completely unknown, but repeated mention of 4 guns very known. How often does a shooting take place and no one knows who the shooter is as of the time of the article? Students didn't recognize their own classmate, or did the shooter decide to shoot a bunch of strangers in a school that he's never attended? How is it that no one knows the shooter? This certainly was not the case in the Virginia Tech shooting of 2007 or the Columbine shooting, where everyone seemed to know or recognize the shooter. Consider this carefully. Conflicting reports and the number of dead people, identity entirely unknown as well. Who are these dead people? What are their names? And why is there confusion as to how many people are dead at a small school? Is the body count that high? That difficult? You decide what this might mean given the context of all the facts coming out. It would certainly not be the first time we've heard conflicting stories and body counts. Oregon is recent state of political interest to neocon former NYC Mayor Michael Bloomberg. It's not a far stretch to imagine that a good town for a false flag shooting would be one where trusted criminals have influence or are in power. Is it just me, or is anyone else been wondering what the heck former Mayor Bloomberg was doing in Oregon? Is it a coincidence that former NYC Mayor Michael Bloomberg has been dumping a lot of money into pushing legislation in Oregon? In the past, others within alternative media have called for watchful eyes in Oregon given this connection. No big deal, you decide. Social media controversy already brewing. Recall after the Sandy Hook shooting false flag, we saw criminal Lieutenant Paul Vance call on TV and call social media exposure of the Sandy Hook shooting disinformation and a crime to be prosecuted. Similarly, again, we are seeing an immediate attack and discrediting of social media in an attempt to control the information. Perhaps they are doing this knowing that more information will come out. Everyone should consider that this social media stunt may be purposely bogus to discredit social media. I suspect this may be what is happening. This is just another attempt by the controllers to condition people into thinking that the only reliable news comes from mainstream media sources. Initial images and videos show no ambulances, no blood, or dead bodies. If anyone has these images, please provide them so we can see them, but as of the time of this article, this evidence is not available. This reminds us of almost every shooting false flag where the mainstream media hides the images of the crime scene. Where are the images of the police yellow tape, the blood on the floor, the bodies, the ambulances, the emergency vehicles? By hiding all of these things, all of the story and images is left to your imagination, and this allows for maximum control of the information. Shooting has a divisive religious twist to it, opens the door for blaming Islam others later on. Without any further explanation, we're told that the shooter demanded that his victims state what their religion was before shooting them. No one seems to offer what the intent of this was or what does this mean. Is this an attempt to leave the door open for a possible blaming of ISIS or some other extremist-related patsy? Consider that the shooter up to now, at the time of this article, can be anyone. Conveniently, the controllers have held back the identity of the shooter. No clear-cut witnesses actually saw the shooting. Yes, believe it or not, after reading the story, it appears only 3 witnesses accounted for. The closest thing to an eyewitness is Courtney Moore. Courtney Moore, 18, told the local news review newspaper that she was in her writing class at Snyder Hall when a gunshot came through the window and struck her teacher in the head. The remaining two supposed witnesses only heard the gunfire, according to reports. Student Cassandra Welding told CNN that she heard 35 to 40 shots. Student Brandy Winter, in a posting on Facebook, said she was a classmate at Snyder Hall next to the room where the shooting began and ran along with her classmates when they heard the gunfire. Winter also says that from talking with the student in the classroom where it happened, almost every person in the room was shot by a man with 4 guns, admitting she herself did not witness the shooting. Anyone who knows about guns might find the statement a bit peculiar, since you can only shoot someone with a gun 1 barrel at a time. You cannot fire 4 guns at once. Also, studies show that when someone is shot with a gun, most of the time it will actually survive the shooting since the bullet must penetrate vital organs. Also, people who are severely shot won't die right away, giving them time to potentially tackle the shooter. So it's not easy to actually shoot and kill a room full of people with 4 guns. Also, surely after the first few rounds, everyone afraid for their lives would have to run full speed out of the room. Okay, I'm going to cut it right here, and then I'm going to do another. I'm going to do a second part 2 because I want to make sure it's able to download.
Bye.